Welcome back, everybody, to the Breakthrough Moment podcast. Zac Deane here with Ben Jones, special guest from Perth, Western Australia. How are you doing, mate? Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, thanks, Zach, for having us. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I appreciate your time today, and hopefully, we can provide some value and we can help you along in your day.
This is you're gonna over deliver. I can't wait to introduce you to everyone. Everyone at home, please listen in, share this around, get your notepads and pens ready because Ben is an incredible entrepreneur and family man, and he's got some incredible businesses that he's focusing on. So I'm going to give you a bit of the intro now. So Ben is the founder of Youth in Business, where he's dedicated his efforts to helping young entrepreneurs building businesses from the ground up. So through his work, he's inspired and equipped kids to take their first steps into the world of entrepreneurship. So if you're a parent, future parent, looking to have, an entrepreneurial Brady Bunch at home, definitely listen up. And he's also the founder of Titan Marketer. So he specializes in scaling businesses using the power of YouTube ads. And his expertise is helping companies harness the platform to drive digital growth and gain a competitive edge in the digital marketplace that we have today, which is so much noise. So I've heard YouTube ads are by far some of the best these days. So I'm curious about that as well. And then Ben is the founder of Complete Prospecting and minesforsale.net, where he sells mines, does land acquisition and prospecting for gold. So look, I'm so excited to interview you, mate. This is really interesting. Before we get into it, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, the Breakthrough Moment podcast is around interviewing entrepreneurs and sharing their breakthrough moment throughout their career that took them into the next level of success. And as they share their breakthrough moments, it allows us at home to have breakthroughs as well. So without further ado, mate, let's jump into it. Give us an overview of your story and some of your breakthrough moments. I'm sure you've got some great ones.
Thanks, Zach. I super appreciate it. Yeah, look, it sounds really nice when you say it on a sentence like that, right? But yeah, it certainly didn't just happen overnight. So, look, I grew up on a farm, like truth be told, and nothing special at school. I left school before before school finished because me and school weren't a great fit. And then my parents had a rule, like you need to either get a trade or get a degree. And the thought of more school was just not fun for me. So I went and become an electrician. Did that for a little while. And then I had to unlearn all the things that you have to learn as an employee to become a business owner, and started multiple businesses, some of which, you've done well, some of which I've done not so well. I've burnt some and grew some, and it's been an incredible journey probably over the past decade. Youth in Business, that's been really fun. Like we sort of got to a point in our own business journey where we're like, what do we do next? We didn't want to give our kids pocket money. So I really believe that, the world can be changed if we teach young people entrepreneurship. So I think that's a big driver for me. So my wife and I started that. I mean, we were running events, 800 people plus, most capital cities in Australia and the UK. We've had kids, literally become millionaires, been in every type of media. One kid wrote a book, How I Made More Money Than My Principal. So that was really cool. These days, it's just an online platform. We want to help as many kids as we can. So we've got that going. All my own kids, I have 4 of them, have their own businesses, which is really cool. So I think young entrepreneurship, the world of young entrepreneurship is super important, and we are passionate about that. So that's where that one started. Titan Marketer, obviously, we specialize in growing businesses with YouTube ads, and I think that the thought behind that is, that actually came out of just prior to COVID. We were running a lot of ads, and the breakthrough moment for YouTube itself was we were heavily dependent on Facebook ads. I'm sure there's probably many businesses out there who have, very dependent on Facebook ads and the roller coaster revenue ride that it provides. And they basically shut all our accounts down. I was due to go to China, and I had some big rooms to fill, and we probably dropped, I don't know, $50,000, $60,000 on events, and we just could not fill them at all. And I said, look, we're going to hire an agency to run Google and YouTube ads. We're going to do it in-house as well. And when I get back, we'll see how we go. And this is going back to the days before there was VPNs. So I couldn't even check in on the marketing. But we came home and we filled all the rooms with, these are 200 people to 500 people rooms, multiple events. Like we managed to fill, and we're talking tens of thousands of dollars of ad budget. We managed to fill all the rooms with Google and YouTube ads, and the fun thing was we actually did a better job than the agency. So we fired the agency. We did it for ourselves. A few friends got me to speak on their stages about how we were doing it. And during COVID, we started, to help businesses scale. We really got down into the agency and consulting side of just the YouTube side of life. So yeah, that's how Titan started. And then complete prospecting. I used to have another business where I used to teach coaches and experts how to sell from stage. During COVID, that got crushed. Obviously, no one could fly. COVID easily cost me $500,000 in cash position in the first year, which was a big blessing because I managed to pivot into complete prospecting and starting to get it going out prospecting for gold because we couldn't fly. I live in Western Australia. There's all sorts of gold around. So we started to do that. And then we managed to hang out with a mining lawyer one day and I got talking to him about how you acquire ground. We got into that. And long story short, we now sell mining projects and acquire them. And I'm just about to start my own first gold mine, which is kind of cool. So I'm heading to China in a couple of weeks to literally go look at processing plant and equipment and a whole bunch of things. So yeah, so it's kind of been a bit of a journey to get there. But every single one of those sort of things has had like a breakthrough moment, if it makes sense. Like there's been a massive problem or a massive drama or, youth in business is probably more an opportunity one, right? Like it's a, what do we do now? How do we give back sort of moment when everything's going well? And that was that one. Titan Marketer was, hey, obviously we're getting good results with this. How do we help other people do it? The other businesses having to close. Let's transition into Titan Marketer. And complete prospecting was the same thing. It was like, look, I can't fly, I can't speak, I can't do any of the things I'm used to doing. Let's turn a hobby into a business, and it's just grown from there, really. So,
wow, I think if we look up the word pivot in the dictionary, it's going to be you. Like you literally like turning the lemons into lemonade factory, for global domination in the lemon industry. Like that is super interesting. I think there's so many questions. I'm so fascinated by all those different, jumps and changes. It really seems like the theme there is that you've really turned those challenges and problems or breakdowns into a breakthrough and a profitable business. There are other entrepreneurs out there, right? They're going through maybe some tough times, some problems. They're figuring out, oh my gosh, maybe I got to pivot now based on what's going on in the world. Do you have any advice for those entrepreneurs?
I think, look, if you're an entrepreneur, I think the first thing to get right is sales, right? Because if you don't have sales, you just have an idea, and you can have a hobby that loses money and people call it a business, right? So I think like if you're going through tough times and you're an entrepreneur, there's not too many problems sales can't solve. So for example, if you doubled or tripled the amount of sales that you had in your business or your idea in the next month, would that solve 90% of your problems? And for most businesses, the answer to that is yes. So, and I think as business owners and entrepreneurs, sometimes we like get trapped in doing the thing or we're excited about the product or the service or the whatever. But if we can focus on the sales side of life and like growing the business, everything else will be okay. And then obviously the next skill is people. Like then you need to be able to figure out the people side. But if you can't, there's no good figuring out the people side if you haven't figured out the money side, right? So that's super important. I guess if I could go back and talk to my younger self, maybe 10 years ago where I was 15, where I was just getting into business and things, I'd be like, hey, the number one thing you need to solve here is sales, because if you've got enough money in the bank, you can solve most problems. So
100%, 100%. I'm super curious with you mentioned earlier, your kids have a business each. What business do they have?
Yeah. So I think like the cool thing with kids in business is like they need to start a business around things they're interested in, right? I think as adults, we learn to swap time for money a lot, which sucks. So if they can find something they're interested in and they can turn it into money, then who cares? So for example, like most of my kids, they've done all sorts of different things. So, and so everything from, when they were younger, there's a cool story. My son wanted like a $250 Lego. And I was like, there is no universe where I'm buying any more Lego to step on around the house. And so I said to him, well, how are you going to make this money in like a week? What are you going to do? And so he ended up just baking some things at home and went around the neighborhood and knocked on doors and sold them. And then he went to his football club, like he's playing football on the weekend, and he was just walking around to all the parents, basically just selling them like popcorn and brownies. And yeah, within a week, he had more than he needed to buy his thing, and away he went. So, I mean, that's just a simple one. As their kids have got older, I mean, when it first started, my son, Trent, he just started growing herbs in the back garden. And I thought that would be a really cool one for him to learn. And he went around door knocking in the neighborhood, and he was just selling herbs to old ladies, basically. And then he put them on a subscription. So he'd get it home from school and he'd go drop all the herbs off or whatever. I mean, he was making, over $100 a week for, a bit of time selling herbs from the back garden. And it's something, just simple things like that. It doesn't have to be hard, right? I mean, these days they're a bit older now, and we've taken our kids to China to have a look at products and things, and the different markets. And so they sell some things on eBay. They've got that sort of going on in the background. It's just a bit of play money for them. My daughter does some recycling. She's 6, so she's really keen on that sort of thing. So she does bottles and recycling. And my other sons, they started doing markets. So doing different wares at markets, like where they stand in front of people and have to sell. And I have a lot of business background in online business, right? But I actually want my kids to learn how to sell. That bit's really important. So I try and get them to do lots of live markets where they sell whatever they make or they import or whatever they want to do. And that works really well. I think one of the things they're doing at the moment is they're doing like light up toys, like light up swords and wands and stuff like that. They've imported a whole bunch of those. And they have like a Christmas light trail down in my local council area. And they've got a spot down there. Well, my son's organized it. So my older son's like 16 now. So he organizes all the stock from China, all the council, all the markets, all the things. I don't have to do any of it. And I think last year, they did I don't think it was 27,000 in a couple of weeks. The year before, they did over 30K. So at the moment, they're doing that sort of, over 10K. They've definitely all done 10K months before, which is kind of fun. Except for Eloise, who's 6. So even my 11-year-old, 9-year-old have done it. So, which is kind of cool. But the problem with that is they have money to buy whatever they want, whenever they want. So we have the opposite problem of, like, my son at the moment sent me a message on Gumtree yesterday. He's like, I want to buy this bike, Dad. It's like $2,000. I was like, do you really need it? Or like, you've got like $1,000 one. I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then they go to the shops, they have all their own stuff. So they just buy whatever food. So we've had to like limit the amount of treats and stuff they buy, because it's just, imagine a kid with a credit card buy whatever they want, whenever they want. It's freaking crazy. So we've had to, like, just from a health reason, be like, oh, you can only spend like $20 a week on food. So yeah, it's crazy. So, but yeah, so that's just a couple of things my kids are up to, which is kind of cool. But I think at the end of the day, if they have an entrepreneurial mindset where they can go out into the marketplace and whether they become engineers or doctors, if they can be the business owner instead of the service provider, I think that's going to be really cool, no matter what they choose to do. So
that is so inspiring, and it's the first time I've ever heard that. Yeah, the flip side for the parent, like, there's no pocket money, or well, I guess, yeah, this is beyond pocket money and beyond Christmas money and tooth fairy money. This is kids. Far out, nest egg. That's so fun. That's such an interesting conversation. I really liked what you said before. It's like the future of the world, regarding changing the world comes from the next generation stepping up and being entrepreneurs. So I think that's so true. And what a great way to continue the legacy for you as your own businesses, for your own businesses going forward. That's such a great, I guess, testament to your own business etiquette and acumen for your own family. So it's really interesting. I'm wondering if you could go back in time and just hypothetically jump in a time machine, go back to the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey and change one thing that would have helped your business journey from that moment. What would have that thing been?
Focus on sales. I know I said that earlier, but I can't stress it enough. And it would be, what are the sales targets for the quarter? And probably like understanding financials. I think that would be something I needed to get my head around, like financials and sales. That would be my main thing I really need to learn. If I was starting out, I think that would be good. Learning the art of selling and self-promotion. That would be a big one. And probably getting in technology earlier, like understanding the power of like paid advertising and that sort of thing, probably earlier in the piece than what I did. So I guess that'd be the lessons that I'd want to teach my earlier self. Other than that, though, I think like some of the lessons are hard won. Like even if they're, a painful lesson, you got to kind of go through it to get to the next bit. So that and align yourself with business partners that have the same values as you. That would be another one. But yeah, so I think there are probably some lessons I'd look at. So
very interesting. And in terms of sales, like I guess you've been around it for a while now, and you've helped so many people with their own sales and generate through the ads. Do you have any tips or strategies or recommendations to really help businesses maximize, I guess, that area of their business?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first one is like have a really good offer and make sure you speak to the person who needs it, like or wants it. Like speak to the right audience of people, and that doesn't matter if you're doing ads or sales. If you're trying to sell ice to people who live in Antarctica, it's not going to work, right? So I think that's really cool. Like understand like what it is you have to offer, get a good price around it, and then understand the messaging behind who wants to buy it and how to talk to them. I know that's more marketing than sales, but that's the first piece. Then of course figure out how to sell it. It comes back to like in youth in business, like there's a lot of ways of starting a business, right? So people that go, hey, you should have a business plan. If you go to uni, they'll tell you to have a business plan. And if you're profitable in the first year, you're amazing. What an absolute load of crap, right? So what we do in youth in business in particular is we teach them how to basically, what we call it, fly the plane before you build it, right? And for example, to do that, we start off with a $20 challenge. So they start with $20 and they have to turn that $20 into as much money as they can within a 30-day period. So you can do this as an adult, you can do this as a child, really doesn't matter. Give yourself a month, start with $20, see how you go. To this day, most kids will do over $1,000 in their first month with $20, right? And they'll go and buy something, then they'll do this, and they'll try 3 or 4 different business ideas. But the thing that they have to do to make the money is make the sale, right? And it's the same. It's the same at a bigger level, right? So, and then I think the winner, like the guy who holds a record at the moment, is I think it's about it's over 5,000, 5,400 or 5,300 or something like that. But literally he just did it selling popcorn, like not a hard thing to do, right? And he started selling little popcorn, then he got like a wholesale popcorn and then wholesale plate. Like it was the whole thing. So, but what I'm saying is like, if people always go on about like, oh, this is how you do sales and marketing or whatever, all you need to have is a product or a service and you need to get out there and push it. And if kids can do over $1,000 in their first month, which a lot of them do, I've got like a list, like more than I can count of kids who've done that. Adults have no excuse. And more importantly, if you could just teach the younger generation how to turn $20, even if it was into $100, we could end homelessness and all the drama out there in the universe. So just getting people to be self-sufficient. So and I know I'm going on about sales a bit, but if you're down to your last $20, figure out what can you package up and sell it as, or go sell some stuff and you'll never go hungry again. So
great advice. 100%. Yeah, that's the lifeblood of a business, right? Sales and marketing, and yeah, as you mentioned, the team there as well. That is so inspiring. $20 into 1,000 and $20 into 5,000. Was that an adult that did the 5,000, or was that a kid?
That is like 11.
11.
So yeah. So I mean, like we have a 1K club, like where the kids do $1,000 in their first month. And when we first did it, like when we first started doing the $20 challenge, most kids would do like, I don't know, they do like $100 or $200 or 300. But like that 5-minute mile, like each time it got bigger, and now when kids go into it, they literally go like, hey, if we don't do $1,000, we like suck. And so they've already got that expectation of that. And so that's what I'm saying, most kids who do it today, because we give them like heaps of case studies and examples of kids who've done it. And everyone kind of sets that as their bar in their first month. And for a kid, that's kind of life-changing. So for an adult, if you sat down and said, hey, look, I have $1,000, how do I turn it into $10,000 in a month with what I'm selling in my business? You honestly sat down, you could figure that out. So.
Wow. This is okay. I've got another question. This is so interesting. So you've now, you've worked with clients in the profession, adult entrepreneurs, now kid entrepreneurs, your own kids, your own entrepreneurship as well. Like, what do you think is the number one key component or key ingredient for those who are successful and those who are not in business?
Action. Action and willing to do the hard thing, right? Like, so many people just want to be comfortable and, like they're not willing to do the things that need to be done, So if you go talk to any super successful business owner, like the one thing that they are not short on is opportunity, right? Like even now, like I have lots of opportunity of things I could do. My biggest problem I have is time. And then time, you need people to solve the time component, right? So I think like that's the big one, if that makes sense. So just starting off with that and then going from there. So.
And with some of the kids that may have, I guess, not achieved the $200 or the $1,000 mark, and they might be beating themselves up. And I'm sure this isn't just a kid thing. This is an adult thing too. Whenever we don't hit our goals, there's times that we will, distract ourselves or have unhealthy belief systems or do, cause more harm than good at the end of the day. Do you have any advice or recommendations on really the mindset around failure and setbacks and things like that? Because I know failure is a key component of this process at any level of entrepreneurship.
I think this is where school does everyone a disservice, right? You've got it beaten into you for like 15 years that failing anything is bad, to test, whatever, fail is bad, right? But then when you look at it, like you go to ride a bike or something like that, you have to fail to figure it out, right? You got to fall off, you got to scrape your knee, you got to do all of that stuff. And business and life are no real different things. And I think in a lot of cases, this is why a lot of like dyslexic or people who didn't do so well at school, or like people who have basically learned to embrace failure at a young age, do really well in business, because they know that, oh, well, we failed at that, we'll just try something else. And they can, as the saying goes, fail forward, and I think that's a big one, like being able to, okay, this is a failure, move on. I was just listening to something from Jacko Willick the other day, and a really good book on this, like extreme ownership. And he was basically like, oh, this sucked or this was hard. And he's like, good. If you said good to every problem that came in front of you, like, man, you're going to do well. So, but I think like it's hard. And I think this is where, like, if you listen to my story, there's lots of pivots and changes, right? And each one of those pivots and changes is because there's been a massive setback that's come along and, cost a lot of money or a lot of drama to figure out. And then, well, what's the opportunity in that? And then, stepping into it. Like, no matter what situation you're in, maybe your business is failing, maybe your business has failed. Look, I've been there. Your business partners have left, someone's stealing from you, your employees have quit, your monthly business is halved, like all these things, they're all going to happen, right? So as long as you can learn the lesson from them, that's the key. Just one more point on that. Like, one thing that I really think is important is life lessons repeat until you learn the lesson. And, like whatever it is, right? That's why your weight goes up to a certain amount and comes down. And you haven't learned the lesson at that point, or your income or your business or whatever. So when there's a big, massive problem, like something that came along that just like totally hit us, like COVID come along and totally destroyed a business. And I was like, well, my wife and I have this thing where we go out to dinner and we have what's called a never, ever again dinner. And we have a dinner, we bring a notebook and we write in it and we're like, this will never, ever happen to us again. And we'll write down all the things that, we need to do or we won't do, of how that will never happen again. So, for example, a business that's evolved, that's 100% dependent on events and flying and physical locations, never again, because another, it could be COVID times, whatever the next variant is that comes out and shuts all that down. So nothing where COVID can shut us down is ever going to happen to me again. So, so just stuff like that, like what is the thing that never ever again did its work amazing. So
that's a great way to do it. I think a lot of entrepreneurs out there are solo entrepreneurs as well, and maybe forget to review the mistakes or the feedback or what didn't go well and what can we do next time. So it's really great. It sounds like, business starts from having the right team, and that's your wife and your kids, and that ripples out. So that's really, really interesting. Ben, I'm curious, you're on the front line of technology or ads these days with your YouTube. How do you see AI shifting or disrupting the ad industry?
Massively. I think AI is going to be a massive force, whether it's for good or bad. It doesn't really matter. It's coming, so you got to figure it out, right? So, and I think the people who don't embrace the AI side of life are going to struggle. For example, in YouTube ads, for example, AI, where the way we're embracing it at the moment is a lot in the script writing. So to write really good scripts used to take us a month between, big avatar templates and, different types of formats we wanted to run, going back and forth with the client a million times just to get where we needed to be. And, like, I don't know if you've ever employed copywriters, but man, they're like herding cats, depending on what day they wake up in the morning, you get good copy versus bad copy. And then it takes them an extra 3 days to, get back in the zone or whatever. Right. So we ended up, I said to one of my copywriters and one of my tech guys, I was like, we need to figure out with our process how to create scripts with AI properly, good ones. And we probably spent, 4 to 6 months with 2 guys just solidly on it. And we've got, I think the page like a 39-page document of copy and paste prompts that we've got now, which basically will spit out really, really good YouTube ad scripts. We give it away for free. You go to titanmarketer.com, you'll find it there. But the cool thing with that is that's how you embrace AI. Now, the cool thing, I went from having like 4 copywriters to like 1.5. So yeah, and I know everyone's like, oh no, you're firing your people with AI, right? Well, yeah, I am. But on the other side of that, those guys that left, we've enabled them to have all the AI stuff that we created that replaced them, so they can go out and probably serve 3 or 4 times the amount of clients that they could before. So, and even still, like AI is going to get it 90% or 80% of the way there. And if you give it bad instructions, it's going to do a bad job. Like if you just go to AI right now and you're like, hey, write me a YouTube ad script, it will suck. Because in the same way, if I had a staff member and I was like, hey, go clean the staff room, they'd probably move a few things. But if I gave them a detailed list of, I need you to dust, I need you to sweep, I need you to do all this stuff, they would do it. And I think that's the key with AI is being good at giving it good instructions to get good results is half the battle. And then being able to use it and leverage it in your business. So yeah, I think it's definitely coming. We need to embrace it. It's a massive opportunity. It's a massive pivot. Whether you like it or not, you're going to have to deal with it. So you might as well start early.
I think that's something we could all add to our never, ever again dinner list, which is I'm never, ever again not going to utilize or maximize AI in my business.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Never, ever. So you got to get on board. Like it's a non-event. Like you have to do it.
Yeah. 100%. So Ben, what do you think is the core message today that you really want to impart in entrepreneurs listening?
The core message, in looking at the breakthrough moments, if you look at if you read of any great entrepreneurs, all their breakthrough moments are going to come from some form of hardship in most cases. And I think finding the opportunity in the moment and finding that next breakthrough thing is the key. Be okay to pivot. It's okay to fail. And I think be okay with failure, I guess the theme of this podcast. And also, there's an opportunity on whatever the problem is that you've got there, find it. And, you'll look back in a year or so and you'll be like, wow, I'm so glad that happened or that didn't happen. And it might suck in the moment, but that's why it's called a breakthrough moment, because it forces you to like step up, own your stuff, and take the next step. So I guess for whatever it's worth, that'd be my words of advice. So
No, so good, so good, so good. Do you recommend any books? You mentioned Extreme Ownership, the book earlier, but do you recommend any other books that have helped you along your journey?
there's so many, right? I think, if you start with some of the classics, like, something like How to Win Friends and Influence People, that's a great one. If you're looking for just some simple finance ones, you've got all the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series. I like The Richest Man in Babylon. I think that's good for just getting your finances in order. Business wise, I actually like to read autobiographies of successful business and people and see how they've done it. So pick your favorite humans and read those. In terms of the marketing space, there's so many books on online marketing. Any of the Russell Brunson stuff is cool. I like all the Grant Cardone stuff. There's some good things in amongst that. I'm probably a really big fan of all things. A good place to start is Alex Hormozy. Like if you're new to reading any of his books, whether it's $100 million offers or leads, is a great place to start as well. These are all sort of books that have definitely shaped me in life. I'm currently, at the moment, I'm reading Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. That's a pretty good one. I'm enjoying that. And because time is the one thing we can never get back. So, there's a few books. Go check them out that I've enjoyed, that have helped me along the way.
So good, so good. Do you have any books for teens or young adults who are wanting to get into entrepreneurship as well?
Yeah, we actually had a book club there for a while, and each month we do like different books and movies. So I can rattle off a few of those. The Richest Man in Babylon's a good one for them to understand, that sort of thing. Any of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a definite read. Like you have to read that one just to get your head around getting out of the rat race. I think that's important. If you can get your kids to play the cash flow game, the board game of how to get out of the rat race, I fully suggest that. Some movies. The Ultimate Gift is a good one. We enjoyed that. What was the one where she had the mop? I can't remember. There's another one where she had the mop. And just try and find some, that'll come to me in a minute, but just try and find some like good books for them to read, things that they're interested in. There's a lot of them out there. How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think that's another good one every kid should read. But yeah, that'll keep him busy. I had a friend of mine who pays kids $100 for each business or self-help book that he got them to read. So I thought that was cool. I've not done that myself, but what you like, if children are mini AIs, what you put into their head is really important. So it's probably a good investment if you look at it that way. So
that's a great tip. For sure. I wish I had that. I think I would have read a few more books. That's great. So I have one more question for you, but before we do that, it's my best question for last. How can people get in touch with you, Ben, and what's the best way they can get connected?
Cool. So yeah, look, if you want to connect with me at titanmarketer.com, that's where we do the YouTube stuff. youthinbusiness.com is where we do the youth in business stuff. If you're looking at the mining side of stuff, if you check out minesforsale.net, any of those places are going to be great. If you want to connect with me on my socials, Ben Jones can be a little tricky to find, but probably LinkedIn or Instagram is probably the best place to do it. And just search me up and we'll go from there. But hopefully I've been able to help you guys in some way. And it's been my pleasure to be here, Zac. So thanks for having me.
This has been so informative. So many pearls of wisdom here. My last question is around, and I'll put all the links to connect with Ben and his organizations and businesses around here on the video or the podcast. I would love to know, what would be the number one challenge you'd like listeners to go away with this week, this month, this year? If you could really send them in a direction and challenge them in a certain way, what would that challenge be?
My challenge there will be set yourself a very short period. And I think with this podcast, I'd like to probably take inspiration from the $20 challenge. So find yourself a small marketing budget or a small budget or whatever it might be. If you have no budget, figure out a sales target that you want to hit, then maybe double it, throw down a little bit of money into whatever advertising platform you want to play in, and then go out and hit it. And I think you'll be very surprised. You'll be able to do your quarterly goals within a 30-day period. If that's your main focus, like if you're waking up and spending 2 hours on that a day, I'd be very surprised if you didn't hit it. So yeah, that'd probably be my challenge. If you wanted to, whatever X it is, your business or sales or whatever it might be, set yourself a quarterly goal, try and do it in a 30-day period with a very small amount of funds. And I think you'll be very surprised at what happens next.
Oh, that's an awesome challenge. Yeah, I'd love to hear the results for everyone at home that implements that. Ben, this has been an awesome conversation. So many pearls of wisdom. And yeah, really appreciate you being on the podcast today. Any final comments?
No, look, thank you for having me. It's been my privilege, and hopefully thank you for everyone's attention as well. Hopefully it's been able to serve you in some way. Thank you again, Zac. I love what you're doing with your podcast and wish you all the success.